Welcome. I'm Scott Zagurski, Senior Director of Marketing with Assurity. Thank you for taking time to join us today for our webinar, A Step Ahead, taking a data-driven approach to finding new DI clients with myself and my colleague Seth, Groff, Manager of Life and Health Products here at Assurity. We're excited to share with you what we learned by sifting through data from 20,000 disability insurance applications and provide you with exclusive information you can use today to boost your businesses. First, a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the questions section of your screen. We will be addressing questions throughout the webinar and also at the end. If we have any questions we aren't able to get to, we'll be sure to follow up with you individually. Now I'm going to hand this over to Seth to take you through this data-driven approach.
All right, well, thanks, Scott, and thanks everybody for taking some time today to jump on today's presentation. One of my favorite authors is Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins believes that if you want to be successful at anything in life, even selling disability insurance, you should find someone that is already successful in that field and mimic their behaviors. And that is what today's presentation is all about. As Scott mentioned, we've compiled data on over 20,000 disability policies and identified what occupations agents are having the most success selling at Assurity. These are not the occupations that I think we should sell. These are not the occupations that Assurity is trying to get you to sell. These are the actual occupations that agents are having the most success selling, placing, and keeping on the books. So if you use the information given to you today, you will increase your chances of success selling disability insurance, or what I like to call income protection. So before we jump into the actual data, let's look at who Assurity is and what you need to know about our company. If you're not familiar with Assurity, we are a mutual company that's located in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we like to say that we focus on Middle America. And there's really two things you need to pull out of that statement. First of all, the fact that we are a mutual company. The reason that's important to you and your policyholders is that we make decisions that are in the best interest of the policyholders. This is different from a stock company that's going to make decisions based in the best interest of the stockholders. Also, we focus on Middle America. This demographic needs our help more than other demographics. And we've really designed our entire portfolio of products and the way we do business around this demographic to make it as easy as possible to get the protection that they need. The other things that you need to know about Assurity is that not only do we care about our policyholders, we also care about the entire world. You can see below that we're actually LEED certified. That means that our building is environmentally friendly, and we also are a certified B Corp, which means Assurity meets the rigors and standards for social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. So we're not only watching out for the policyholders, we're watching out for the rest of everybody else as well. How are we different, or what's our competitive advantage? First of all is the personalized service. What I always tell people is that Assurity is big enough to compete, but we're small enough to care. And so somebody's going to pick up the phone and help you solve your problems. We've already talked about the advantages of a mutual company and the fact that we leverage technology to make the sales process as simple and easy as possible for both the policyholder and the agent. Also, we want to make sure you get compensated properly, and then also for a competitive advantage, we feel that our marketing and sales team does our best to provide you with information that will help you grow your business and ultimately do more sales. So in today's webinar, what we're going to look at are going to be the benefit to you in disability sales. If you've ever listened to one of my presentations in the past, you have heard me say something to the effect of that you need to use something you learned today, because you are taking an hour out of your day to learn about your craft. And if you don't use this information and go out and make a sale, ultimately it was a waste of your time. We will also look at the data and identify the top occupations in regards to sales, placement, and persistency, and we'll explain why this should be important to you. And then we'll take a look at 4 case studies that will help you become more comfortable with the sales process. And finally, we will cover all the tools that Assurity has available to you to give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace of selling income protection. So, why should you sell DI? First of all, your clients need it. The lifestyle that your client has worked to establish is due to their ability to get up in the morning and go to work. Everything they have, their house, their car, their savings, their retirement, this all could go away if they are unable to earn an income. DI helps protect one of the risks that threatens this lifestyle. Also, there's a lack of competition. Most agents know what DI is, but very few write it on a consistent basis. And the ones that actually do write some policy, they're typically reactive. So what I want you to do right now is write down on a piece of paper how many DI policies have you sold in 2017. And I'm assuming that it's probably less than 5. And that just goes to show that there is very little competition in the DI market. So with a little work, you can become the income protection expert and gain new clients because there's not much competition in this marketplace, especially on the occupations that Assurity focuses on. Also, income protection allows completion of other financial objectives. Focus on the positive with your clients. Ask them what their top financial priorities are. Income protection is going to ensure that they stay on track even if they can't go to work due to a disability. DI is also a great door opener. How many times has someone told you that I don't need any more life insurance? Most people have been approached about life insurance at some point in their time, especially business owners. So bring them a new idea. Call them up, pick up the phone, talk to them about income protection. The odds are they haven't had that conversation and they will be open to your ideas. And then finally, the more solutions equals better the relationship. So the more products you get in there, the more likelihood that they will stay a client. Also, disability protection or income protection is really the missing link. Think of your clients. Maybe you have educated them and helped them purchase one of the black circles. Maybe it was life insurance, maybe it was auto, health, property, but ask yourself, how do they pay for it? And the answer to that question is with their income. Income protection is the missing link because if they don't have an income, they won't be able to purchase the other products. And that puts your clients in a bad position because not only do they will lose the insurance that they have in force, but it also puts you in a bad position because you lose their business. So remember that income protection is going to be the missing link. So enough about what's in it for you. Let's take a look at the data. As I mentioned, we pulled the occupations of over 20,000 disability policies at Assurity. And we dissected the information and we have identified several key takeaways. This information will help you narrow your focus on what occupations will likely result in the most success. And we'll also talk about the 3 P's of sales: policy submitted, placement, and persistency. Now, these are not the only occupation that Assurity are competitive in. These are just the top and where agents are having the most success. So let's take a look at the top 5 occupations in regards to submitted applications. Out of hundreds or even thousands of occupations, these are the ones that are submitted the most and is a good place to start prospecting. The data shows that they are open to the concept of income protection and that Assurity has a solution that will meet their needs. So you can see that nurses are the top in regards to submitted, followed by truck drivers, contractors, teachers, and then dental hygienists. I am willing to bet that we all know someone in at least one of these occupations. But remember that submitting the policy is only the first part of the income protection equation. The second part of the equation is getting the policy placed. This should be important to you because you don't get paid until it is placed. And if you are like me, you don't want to work for free. Second, if you positioned income protection properly with the client, they saw a need and filled out the application. If it didn't get placed, you really need to take a look at why. Is it because they didn't qualify from an underwriting perspective? Maybe their financial situation changed. Maybe you just didn't reinforce why they need income protection at delivery. Whatever the case is, you really need to focus on increasing your placement ratio. As you can see, the top at Assurity is going to be physical therapists, followed by carpenters, then electricians, and then real estate agents. Again, this just goes to show that these occupations see the need and feel that it's beneficial to get the policy in force. The last part of the DI sales equation is going to be persistency. These are the occupations that stay on the books. And this is important for the client because this means that the policy are in force when they need it. And second, since they are in force, you're going to continue to get paid on the policies through renewals. The top occupations in regard to persistency are going to be physical therapists, dental hygienists, teachers, and contractors. And so you can see that over this 3-year period, these occupations stay on the books because they see the need and they want that protection in force. So based on that data, let's take a closer look at those 4 occupations. As I mentioned earlier, this isn't necessarily that the only places where Assurity is competitive. These are just the top and where agents are having the most success. And so let's take a look. First, let's take a look at a teacher. One of my favorite quotes about a teacher is that a teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. And that's by Henry Brooks Adams. And I think the same thing can be said about the services we provide. We don't know when we will affect a client's life, but if we do our job properly, we will be there when they need us. We all know a teacher, especially if you have kids, and they are one of the top 4 at Assurity. You can see that they're number 4 in submitted applications. They're also number 4 in persistency. There's also 4.3 million of them in the workforce, and this number is growing. And so in this example, you need to keep in mind that we do consider teachers to be a government employee. The reason that this is important and why you need to be aware of it is because they are going to be limited on the amount of DI that they can purchase. And they are limited to a $1,000 base and an $1,800 SDIR rider. Now, you might be saying, what does SDIR stand for? And that stands for Supplemental Disability Income Rider. And the way this rider works is that it pays the monthly benefit if the insured becomes disabled, just like the base. However, it will coordinate with social insurance benefits such as Social Security, workers' comp, or government plans. The reason I add this rider is it helps fit the cost of income protection into the client's budget. So in this example, I used a 90-day elimination period, which is the length of time they have to be disabled before receiving benefits, and a 2-year benefit period, which is the length of time they would receive benefits. I also added a retroactive injury benefit rider, and I like adding this rider when the consumer is concerned about the elimination period. And this rider will pay a lump sum at the end of the elimination period for what the monthly benefit would have been during the elimination period if they're disabled due to an injury. And it just helps recover from not having an income for, in this example, that first 90 days. Also, a couple of tips for working with teachers. Remember that they have a passion for teaching. So focus your presentation on educating, not selling. They don't want to be sold, they want to be taught, so keep that in mind with your presentation. Also, teachers have a willingness to reflect. So ask them open-ended questions that get them to reflect on their current situation, and then ask them how the solutions that you communicated to them can improve their current situation. Next, let's take a look at nurses. Nurses is another great occupation to focus on. They will either fall in a 3A or 4A, depending on if they're working in a hospital or surgery, and they led the way in regards to submitted applications. There's also over 4 million in the workforce, and this number is projected to grow over 16% over the next 10 years. In this example, I also used the 90-day elimination period and 2-year benefit. I also added the SDIR rider to keep the cost down and the retroactive injury benefit rider for the same reasons in the previous example. But in this case study, I actually added the guaranteed insurability rider as well. And this rider allows the purchase of additional amounts of insurance without having to prove insurability. And the reason I add this rider is that in this case study, the insured is relatively young and at the low end of their earning potential. As their income increases, they can also add coverage to cover that increase. And here's why this is an advantage to you. You're setting yourself up for future sales. One of the most difficult aspects of this business is finding new prospects. And so when you add this rider, you're just setting yourself up to follow up with that client and go back and talk about adding additional coverage, which is going to result in ultimately additional sales. A couple of tips for selling to nurses. First of all, talk about their stamina. They realize their job is physical. They are on their feet all day, and they have to move patients. If they lose this stamina, they can't do their job, and ultimately they lose their income. So DI protects against the risk of losing that stamina and ultimately their income. Also, nurses are positive, so make sure you use positive phrases. Don't say protection against a disability, say protection for your income. Also, don't say if you are disabled, you will have to deplete savings and exhaust your emergency funds. Say DI will strengthen your financial foundation and allow you to keep your savings and emergency fund. So really focus on what words you use when working with nurses, because they're going to react better to positive phrases like I just went over than negative phrases. Another great occupation to focus on is going to be truck drivers. As you can see, they are number 2 in submitted applications, and there's also over 30 million in the workforce. In this example, I added the SDIR rider again to keep it affordable, but I also added the catastrophic DI benefit rider. This rider extends the benefit period if they are catastrophically disabled. And I like to add this rider on the 1A and 2A occupations, especially if they need that longer benefit period. And the way this works is that if they are disabled for their elimination period and then they exhaust all their benefit periods and they're still disabled catastrophically, which means unable to do 2 ADLs or cognitively impaired, then they actually extend it for whatever period that they selected. And in this case, we chose 3 years. And again, I always add this, or I talk about it on both 1A and 2A occupations, because it's a real affordable way to extend that benefit coverage for people in these lower OC classes. A couple of tips for selling to truck drivers. First of all, really leverage the fact that they take their reliability very seriously. They want to get that load there on time. I always tell people, think about Smokey and the Bandit, right? Smokey and the Bandit had to bootleg Coors beer west of the Mississippi. They had to drive all the way to Atlanta and then back to Texarkana in 28 hours. And they made their deadline because they take reliability very seriously and making sure their load gets there on time. So educate the truck drivers on how their family relies on them to maintain their current lifestyle, and really leverage the fact that they take that reliability very seriously. Also, truck drivers are very self-dependent. It's ultimately them in the open road. So income protection allows them to keep that self-dependency even if they are unable to drive a truck due to becoming disabled. The last case study that we're going to cover today is going to be electricians. Again, they fall into the 2A occupation class. They're number 4 in placement. There's almost 750,000 in the workforce. And again, this demographic is projected to grow over the next 10 years. In this example, I did add the residual rider. This rider pays a portion of the monthly benefit if they were totally disabled and met the elimination period, and then they went back to work and earned a portion of their income. I like to add this residual rider as well if they're concerned about only being partially disabled and coming back to work and want to earn a portion of their income. Tips to selling to electricians. I always say that electricians are used to working on a team, okay? So if they're on a job site, They're probably working with drywallers, heating and air, the general contractors, maybe even framers. So they're used to working on a team. So really take a team approach when working with electricians. Ultimately, you are their income expert, just like he or she is an electricity expert on the job site. If you use that team mentality, they're more likely to partner with you and listen to the things that you have to sell. So with that, I want you to know that May is Disability Insurance Awareness Month. The reason I didn't bring it up until now is I don't think you need a month to talk to your clients about income protection. Every month is a good month to talk about income protection. However, it is a good reminder of the need your clients have to protect their income. And this month, we have a lot of tools available. Visit our website designed specifically for income protection at www.assurityd.com. Also, make sure you connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and YouTube. Out on that website, you're going to see information about how to talk to new clients about income protection. Also, if you're an agent and you don't believe in income protection, we have a sheet that will help you get over that hurdle and really believe in the product and what it can do for your client. If your clients have objections, we have another document out there that will help you overcome those client objections. And then finally, all these case studies that we went over today, you can find out there as well. If you have any questions, the contact information is up on the screen. You can also reach out to your regional sales team as well, and they would be more than happy to answer your questions about income protection. Right now, that's kind of what I had set up for today's presentation. It looks like we have some questions coming in. The first one is that don't most of these folks get LTD through work? No, that is not true. That's actually one of the biggest myths in the DI market. It's a fair question to ask their client. If they say they do, I always recommend them to bring you what they have, because even if they have it in place, you might be able to add some additional coverage that supplements what they get through work. And a lot of times they don't understand what they actually have at work. So if they say that, you need to ask some follow-up questions and get some additional information. Yes, this presentation will be recorded, and we will email all the attendees a recording of both the slide deck and the recording of the presentation. Are work DI policies generally inferior or less coverage? I can't make a general statement to cover all work DI policies. All I can say is that I recommend looking at it. That's actually what our sales team is here for. So if you can see what benefits they have, we'd love to take a look at it and explain to you how Assurity might be a better fit, or at the very least complement what they already have. If you need real-time quotes, we do have it available on our website, assurelink.assurity.com. If you don't like to access the website because you want to be able to quote it on the go, you also can download it to a laptop. And so as long as you have the laptop, you'd have the ability to run it on the go. Return of premium option on the DI. Yes, we do have the return of premium. We actually write quite a bit of return of premium on the DI. I did not cover it in today's presentation just because we had a limited amount of time. All right, if there's any other questions, feel free to type them in. A question came in for RNs, registered nurses that are in their 40s and already have disability coverage through their employee. How effective would it be for them as an employee to get more DI coverage? Again, without seeing the specifics, I can't talk to it. There might be a huge opportunity for DI if their DI coverage doesn't increase with their income. Also, a lot of times they might be limited on the amount that they have, and so again, you might be able to supplement it. So again, if you can get that information, reach out to your sales team. They can take a look at it, and we can tell you how much they can cover or qualify for. Also, what about approaching a group of electricians or an employer? That's a great question. One of the advantages of Assurity's DI policy on the individual basis is that we can actually write it on a list bill. And so if an employer was going to write it on all their employees, you'd have that opportunity, and they would actually qualify for a 15% discount if you write 3 or more policies. And so if it's a small group of electricians, it works very well. You do get that discount, but you know, they do have to qualify individually from an underwriting perspective, but it's really manageable if it's a small group of electricians. Are there stats on the extent of injury that caused claim? There are stats out there available. I don't have them in front of me, but we'll make sure that someone follows up with you and can provide some of that information. Do you have a mobile apps? Unfortunately, we do not have a mobile app, but again, you can download the software to your desktop, and then is a great way to get quotes. Or you can call our contact center, and our contact center can run quotes for you as well if you're out on the road and don't have your laptop. Where can we find a list of all the riders and their definitions? Go out to our agent website, which is assurity.com. So that's ASSURE.assurity.com. Go ahead and log into that website if you're contracted with us, and then you can download the product guide that will list all the riders and their definitions. Also, that's where you can get the occupation guide and financial underwriting guide as well. Is there a small group, simplified issue, or guaranteed issue policy options? No. Here today we are talking about our individual long-term disability, and it can be wrote in a group setting, but it's going to be underwritten on an individual basis. Now, if they're applying for smaller face amounts or smaller benefit amounts, I should say, we might be able to underwrite those on a non-medical basis, depending on how much they're applying for. So give us a call and we can talk to you about that in more detail. Is your product different in New York?
The product is the same in New York. We cannot offer the return of premium rider in New York at this time.
Yep. So very similar, just not all the riders available. Again, if you want more information on marketing materials, they are all located out on that agent website. Again, that's assurelink.assurity.com. If you don't have access to it, reach out to your regional sales team, and they will be able to help you log in and access that information. There's PDFs out there. You can also order hard copies as well. And there's a lot of brochures out there that you can send to your prospects based on their occupation as well. All right, well, it looks like there's no additional questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's webinar. One last thing that I do want to mention about income protection is that Assurity is going to be launching a new graded DI product. That's going to be available June 1st. That's for your clients that don't qualify for the normal Century Plus due to health conditions. You can come back with a graded option, so keep your eyes out for that material. Also, keep your eyes out for future webinars. And if you have any feedback about what you'd like to see or what we can do to improve these, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name was Seth Groff. I can be reached at sgroff@assurity.com. Love to hear from you. And with that, we're going to end today's presentation. Thank you.